Right on the left foot.
Wow. All right, guys. Whose idea was it to do an Arsenal vodcast then? It's not feeling like a good idea at all at the moment. We've got Adam Kemeny joining us from London, Keir Dalaval Hughes joining us from London, Edward Russell in Singapore. I'm in Kuala Lumpur. Beautifully global, gentlemen. The new normal, yeah? Don't know if David Luiz got the memo there. What's going on?
Please don't let this be the new normal.
Things change, but never change.
Yeah.
That was pretty horrible. I can tell you it's 5:30 in the morning in Asia. And it's never felt more like 5:30 in the morning. Had second thoughts about even doing this, to be honest. What's going on? Adam, you're pretty seasoned. You just gave up your season ticket, didn't you? You were going a lot last season, or last season.
Yeah, I've had a season ticket for about 7 years now. I loaned it out this year. I mean, some of it was personal reasons, but a lot of it was I couldn't stand watching Unai Emery and his brand of football and looking at the disaster that we were. I thought we'd turned a corner. I thought that we wouldn't get humiliated against the Big Six. That was meant to be the promise. I think we started well. I think we started with a game plan, which was different. It wasn't go out and play and see if you can beat them, but stupid errors all went to pot.
Keir, what did you make of that starting lineup from Arteta today?
Sorry, I was going to agree with Adam there. So I really enjoyed the first 30 minutes we came out, and it seemed that when we played against the Big Six with Emery, we came out and tried to match them for gun power and pace and finesse. Here it seemed that Arteta was consolidating a little bit with his game plan, and we seemed to absorb a lot of the pressure early doors. It was still worrying, and we still didn't have a shot on target, but it seemed like at least there was a game plan, and there was an acknowledgement that Man City were the superior team individually and collectively. But how long can that last? And obviously we're going to get into that, but just to make the point that Adam, I think we came out of the blocks not firing, but certainly not on the way to embarrassing ourselves.
What did you think of that lineup, Edward? I actually asked you that question, Keir. I think that got a bit lost, but Edward, bit of a strange lineup, wasn't it?
It was. When I first saw it, yeah, it didn't particularly fill me with confidence, especially with Nketiah up top and the lack of first team experience he's had against, the current champions. I didn't like Saka so far up. He got caught offside a few times in the first half because he's not used to being that far forward. And I think the inexperience shone through just because after David Luiz was David Luiz, the heads just dropped, and it was very hard for the young boys to G themselves up. In fact, when Reece Nelson came on and Lacazette came on towards the end, at least we saw a little bit of spirit, which was missing for that period between the second goal going in and the end of the match.
I think City have now scored 3 goals against us in 5 of the last 6 meetings. So playing them isn't fun at all. And there doesn't seem to be much spice from us when we play City. There's not really a rivalry there. We haven't really been able to get up for it in recent times. There's almost this sort of, we looked okay to start, didn't we, Adam? But there's almost this quick acknowledgement that they're just in a different league to us. And I think at the moment, that's the reality. I don't think even the most deluded of us would say any different.
100%. And I think the most disappointing
thing?
I think what Arteta did was he did something that was brave and different, and he knows how they play. So, I mean, I think Gary Neville pointed it out quite early on, is how narrow the front three were. That meant that they were forced to push their ball out wide. When we looked at our midfield three, none of them were in that kind of dynamic midfield at all. They just sat as a flat three in midfield, kind of man-marking each of De Bruyne, Gundogan and David Silva. Now, admittedly, Kevin De Bruyne is the best player in the Premier League, in my opinion. So what can you do with that? But that seemed to keep them at bay at least until Murray went off.
Did it feel like we were just delaying the inevitable? Though, of course, we hadn't conceded in that opening stanza. But did you really think we could have won it, or we were just absorbing the pressure until we couldn't absorb it any longer?
Look, if you told me that we were going to go into half-time at 0-0, who knows? I'm definitely not an optimistic Arsenal fan at the moment. I don't know where that came from. But, I thought that would have been a huge improvement. So I thought if we can go in there, game plan's working, keeping things tight. I thought Ceballos coming on, put a little bit of bite in, and that really slowed down. Initially slowed down De Bruyne, but there was something kind of there, something that at least we could have a rope-a-dope punch. Until the first half hour, we were 50-50 on possession, which no one does for City, which makes the fucking mistakes so much more annoying.
Look, what gets me is that we acknowledge City are a better team. Leno had to make a couple of saves. I think we're very much clutching at straws, trying to find any positives. I think you've actually done a good job of even finding anything. But what gets me is that our house just isn't in order. The lineup thing, that kind of what's going on with Ozil, what's going on with David Luiz, is Luiz going to stay? Is he not? Is Aubameyang going to stay? Is he not? Like, is it a privilege for us if he stays with us? Our house is not in order. We forgot about Willock, that he even existed the other day. He's starting. Our house is not in order, and we're turning up at Manchester City and we're getting smacked 3-0, and it's absolutely no surprise. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we said in the first one that this is where we need to convince Aubameyang that we're worth staying with, and we certainly didn't do that today. You could see his head dropped immediately after David Luiz did what he did, and he basically gave up. And what also didn't help was the fact that Saka and Nketiah were just not linking up with him. He was making the runs and he wasn't getting the balls, and after a few of those kind of wasted runs from him, his head was down, he was shaking his head, and he wasn't happy. And if that's what we're going to show him for the rest of the season is intent, if I were him, I wouldn't want to stay.
Yeah, I mean, how do you convince him? By surrounding him with children? I mean, I'm not saying that these young men aren't going to be great players, but against Man City, against the champions,
Put your best foot forward.
How big of a job has Arteta got here right now?
I mean, I was quite bullish. I think when we spoke pre-City match, I said, look, this is a clean slate, and I wanted to be like that because I'm a gunner and I'm an optimist. I think tonight showed us that it gave us a bit of a reality check. There is a golfing class individually, collectively. It really came out to me. I think it was probably on the 60th minute when I just looked over and I saw Leroy Sané warming up. And I just remembered how good that kid is. And I thought if he comes on, he's going to be the best player on our pitch, on our team. So it was a reality check. We are far away. Let's reconsolidate where we want to be. Do we still want to make Europe? Absolutely. But it reinforced exactly what we knew from the end of last season, which is we're not good enough. We're not good enough to challenge, but let's see what we can do moving forward.
Yeah, just to give Arteta a bit of an excuse, of course, the injuries early on to Xhaka and then to Murray meant that he only had that one window left to do all his substitutes in. So obviously the pre-game plan of when he wanted to bring certain players on all kind of was thrown out of the window. Interesting though that he didn't go to Pepe and Martinelli, especially Martinelli, I guess, after what we were saying about him on the first episode.
Well, the Michael Jordan, Ronaldo, second coming. Yeah.
Well, as I said, it's really about how hard these players have worked over lockdown and what they've shown Arteta. Why Laka didn't start, I don't know. It just must have been what the coach has seen from them coming back from lockdown and how committed they were. And let's doff our proverbial caps to Man City. They came out and they looked like a world-class team.
You don't need any pre-season friendlies, do you? Or mid-season friendlies. Just walk straight into us. We're the friendly. We were the warm-up game.
Just
like
found
a knife through.
sad.
But look,
isn't it?
I know.
How weird was the atmosphere? I just found the whole thing very strange. Was it pre-season?
Well, it's supposed to benefit the away team, isn't it? That they should have it a little bit easier. That certainly didn't work. I don't know. I understand where Kid's coming from in terms of Arteta's seen the motivation they have and the fitness levels they have. But come on, this is such an important period of the season, and we are trying to get back into Europe. Just play your best players. Play Lacazette. Play Pepe from the start. These are the big money buys, the big players that are supposed to turn up in the big moments. Don't rely on Nketiah and Willock, who I'm still wondering even touched the ball the entire time he was on the pitch.
I think that if you look at these guys from just as Arteta does, crunching the numbers from a statistical analysis, the Pepes, the Lacazettes, you could argue with a few others in midfield, Ozil definitely, they have a tendency to drift. And when you're trying to, what I thought I saw with that 3 hard banks of 3, that the players that he put out would have been the most committed and, stick to their roles for at least that first half. I had this idea pre-injuries that maybe we absorb that for the first 50, 60, and we have our finishers, the Nelsons, the Lacazettes, the Pepes, who now are unable to be unleashed on a tired City side. Again, very fanciful. But...
That's almost Willy Wonka stuff, Adam. Like City haven't got their own finishers.
No, clearly not. Yeah, I mean, the ball from their centre-half / defensive midfielder Fernandinho for their third, ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
So where does this leave us now then? Are we going to get a true acid test against Brighton? It shouldn't be the case. Finding out where our real level is when we play Brighton. And bear in mind, it's an away trip against a side that works hard and is fairly organised.
And we got to find a couple more centre backs probably.
Interesting that he went with
wasn't...
Mari. He seems to like Mari. He wanted to get him in, right? But yeah, as you say, he's not going to be there. So what does it look like?
Holding wasn't even in the squad today, but I guess that's probably all we got left.
Socrates was fit, isn't he?
Socrates was injured for this one. I don't know how big an injury he had. I guess Xhaka would normally drop back into the back line, but we don't know what's up with him now.
To be fair, Socrates always looks injured. He may be running around like he's just knackered all the time.
Yeah, he looks hungover, much the I wanted.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, I wanted to make a point about Luiz, and it's pretty obvious that we stick the boot into him. It was pretty shoddy from the moment he came on, and it was schoolboy stuff coming off the knee and then the penalty. In fact, my girlfriend, who doesn't care about Arsenal, was literally laughing and embarrassed at the knee incident. But I wanted to come back to this recurring point. Why, and this has not been Emery or Arteta or Wenger, but why do Arsenal as a football club, why do we keep buying our rivals or our so-called rivals players that are surplus to requirements? We did it with Sylvestre, Gallas, Luiz, Mkhitaryan. And all these players are going straight in our starting 11. Straight in there, when they're obviously surplus to requirements. So
I think we've made a lot of mistakes in buying players that were good overseas, coming to the Premier League and them not being able to do it. So I guess the flip side of that is let's buy some experienced Premier League players. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason why Chelsea wanted to get rid of him, right?
What's horrifying is how far that goes back here. Sylvestre.
That's what I'm saying.
Goes back. Like on the last episode, I mentioned still needing a Vieira replacement. How far does that go back? How far do these issues at the football club run? That's what I mean. Get our house in order. Not have your most expensive player in terms of wages out of the squad constantly, or ill, or falling out with someone, or causing a political scandal. Not have your best player want to leave. Not have gaping holes in the middle of the park. Not give away penalties and red cards at an alarming rate. The rate at which Luiz was giving away penalties and red cards at Chelsea was normal. Comes to Arsenal, absolute car crash. Why? Why?
Yeah,
So long.
watching the penalty he conceded, Tierney probably should have gone for that first, and Tierney was a bit slow to react. He pulled out a bit, and David Luiz was trying to cover. But he's just a bit too exuberant, shall we say? I don't know what's up with him. He was very excited when he was.
He's 33 years old. He should know better. Like, it's not a young kid. You know, if you got someone quicker than you, don't put your arm on him and don't tug him. Not. I mean, it's bad before VAR. Now with VAR, it's inexcusable, especially when you have a goalkeeper who's playing as well as ours was at that time.
Maybe he knows he's going and he doesn't care. He does seem like the kind of guy who's like, well,
he forced his way out of Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, a lot, whether Tierney was in position or Luiz, was rubbish at defending, which, has been proven. Mahrez was absolute class. His first touch was amazing. The way he dropped the shoulder and went, you can't take it away. These are, as I said, world-class team, world-class individuals. Every single player on that ball for City was above the level of the Arsenal. So,
I managed to blag. Sorry, Keir. I was going to say I managed to blag myself a ticket to the FA Cup final last season, and I remember being at the Emirates, watching us get bullied by Watford and Troy Deeney and co. And I went, you know what? Maybe they've got something in this. And I was in the corporate boxes. I was near the Watford end, and I went, okay, well, maybe they can somehow make a game of it. And they destroyed him. They brought in Kevin De Bruyne with 20 minutes to go, and he ended up getting man of the match. Like, that's the kind of depth that they have. 6-0 against us, and we struggle to get anything out of Watford, home or away. So, yeah, that's the level we're at, and they are light years ahead of us.
Yeah. Given what we've seen tonight, given the injuries, given what's going on with Ozil, we could ask that every week. What do you want to see? What do we need to see from the Brighton game, Edward?
I still don't see the kids as the way forward for the rest of the season. So I would like him to restore the big players and see if they can find some form. Because the more he leaves them on the bench, they're just going to stagnate. So get the big boys out there and give them a chance to show that they're worth starting from now on, I guess.
Keir, what do you want to see? What needs to happen?
I agree with Edward. So we're putting a lot of pressure on these kids, but let's give the more established players, let's give our world record signing, the opportunity to have a go at it at Hove.
It's a way.
He should be skinning them. So Leno, I was watching a stat today. Leno made the second most saves in the Premier League at all keepers. Just before the lockdown. I mean, I'm just a regular idiot. Like, we must be able to see that this is endemic. And why are they getting so many shots on target? Why is our keeper having to make so many saves? With regards to Brighton, I agree with Edward.
What do you reckon, Adam? And Ozil, for me, probably won't start. No. Unlikely to be in the squad, given what we know about the situation there. It's an away game, so of course he won't be playing.
Apparently there's a new Fortnite tournament that starts tomorrow or something like that. So
he'll be up late then.
Yeah. I think we have to draw a line under this one and go, okay, rusty legs, injuries, individual errors. Admittedly, apart from all of that, they outclassed us, but you can almost draw a line under that. I think that what we didn't have at any point was time on the ball in midfield. There was no creativity, there was no link. And with more experienced personnel where we're not chasing shadows of Silva, De Bruyne and Gundogan, then maybe some control in midfield will unleash that front three or front four that we know is so deadly when they want to be or they can be. So just draw a line under it and enjoy having the ball instead of panicking, which I think everyone did. I think Ceballos maybe didn't. I think Tierney did an all right job and didn't panic. But aside from that, no one wanted the ball. Everyone was scared to have it.
Funnily enough, I think as maligned as he is, that's why Granit Xhaka is so essential to the way we play. And it may have been slightly different for a bit longer if he'd have not got injured so early on. He has his deficiencies, we all know that, but we don't have a player like him who is that confident in possession, who can spray the ball, who can dictate the pace a bit. I think central midfield for me is crucial, more so than any other area. And the fact that we haven't looked cohesive in the final third for a long time is worrying. And the fact that we leak goals is worrying. So you could argue that we need strengthening across the park.
And Andy, by the way, can I just say I love that central midfield is the most important position on the pitch from a left-footed striker that has never ever tracked back in his life. It's pretty rich, but I did enjoy playing with you.
But if it is the most important position in the pitch, why don't we have a whole host of different players that can play there? I mean, if Ceballos leaves us at the end of his loan, then what are we looking at? Willock hasn't really done anything in the middle of the park. He might short passes here and there, but he hasn't got the creativity to unlock defenses. Maitland-Niles came on in the middle of the park for the last 20 minutes or so. Don't see him there either. But we're not going out and Torreira, but he's not going to be that box-to-box offensive kind of player as well. I don't know. We don't seem to be looking for these players, and I agree. This is one of the main problems for us, that we haven't really looked for a solution for ages.
Yeah, but Andy said that we could have had Granit Xhaka on the pitch and controlling the tempo, or we could have had 2 red cards. That's the thing with Granit.
Yeah, it's either or with him, isn't it? I was championing Guendouzi actually on the first episode, which one commenter was not happy with at all. If he can get some discipline in his game, he's now at an age where you probably need to stop talking about him in terms of potential, in terms of rawness, and then he now needs to add those elements to his game, because I think in terms of ability, raw ability, he's been called up to the French team. He's been touted as £50 million player. Guendouzi, in terms of physical stature, I still will champion that cause. That he's the only one. Did he do
anything for you today that you were impressed by?
Did any of them, except flashes from Tierney, maybe Leno? I think
Guendouzi. I champion Guendouzi as much as the next man. However,
depends which the next man is.
Exactly, unless that next man's Andy Whitelaw. But Guendouzi is okay. He's still young in terms of elite football. He's 22, going on 23. He's been really impressive, but he still needs a mentor, someone to guide him. Someone, I don't know. I can't think of the last. Gilberto Silva, an old hand, someone there to say, right, this is how you do it. This is how we get a Gary Pallister kind of, type individual, right? I don't know why in my head, but there's been no one there to say, this is how you lead, Matteo. This is how you lead. This is what you do when the chips are down, which they often are. This is what you do when you're 2-0 down against the big six. So that responsibility.
That's because none of our players know what.
He's the guy who's giving direction, showing when to drop back, when to push forward, calling him forward for passes. So there are good parts of his game, but it's not worth it. I mean, when I'm sitting here saying that Mustafi was the better of the two.
Yeah, no, right. You're right. If there's, there's leadership, but you can't be inspiring and motivating if you keep making individual mistakes and you keep fucking up yourself.
And also, I take your point, Andy, that, sure, Guendouzi wasn't great today, but nobody else was. But we're a club where we should have players who, when everybody else is playing badly, should be able to take the game by the scruff of the neck and single-handedly try and win a match for us. Because there are going to be moments when players have bad games. We can't just all fail as the collective. But again, we don't have those players. And I would love for Guendouzi to be the one who's like, okay, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to charge forward and try and bring us back into it. But I don't see him being that man, and he's not going to become that man, as we mentioned, because there's nobody else to kind of encourage him to do that.
I'm
If you
not
remember
sure.
the North London
Adam,
derby,
yeah,
the
look
North
at the
London
Emirates,
derby
exactly.
at the Emirates, I think Guendouzi in the last 20 minutes turned that game for us. I mean, it doesn't happen enough because he's a kid, but he can be the guy who takes the game by a scruff of the neck.
I'm with
But
you.
it's
I've
about
seen
consistency.
it.
When you've got
That is the
that
only.
age, it's
Okay,
consistency.
I'll give you that match, but that's the only one I can actually think of.
No, there are a few games where we were awful, and Guendouzi, to be fair, I only ever remember it being at the Emirates. He grabbed the game with the scruff of the neck. He literally has that in his locker. That's why I champion the Guendouzi cause so hard, because he's the only one that I see that from with that ability in him. Now, it's a different argument as to whether he can do it consistently and whether he can cut out the deficiencies in his game. But the fact is that he's slightly dodgy, we'll admit, and he's the only one probably with that capacity is worrying. And Edward, you saying that we should have players who can lift the team, who can lead by example. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're Arsenal. Why don't we?
I reckon
Why do we have so many
Torreira
problems?
could. But again, Torreira didn't get minutes under Emery, and he doesn't seem to be getting many minutes under Arteta either. I don't think he's injured, is he? He wasn't even in the squad.
Probably wants to go to Italy.
Torreira seems to me that his edge has really been blunted. You know, whether that was Emery or whether, you know, it's, as fans, it's not really our problem. I'm not his manager, but it seems to be blunted with Guendouzi. Just to make the last point, I see him throwing him around the place, and even if he's not dictating matches, what I've seen from him, and definitely at the Emirates, obviously, if the chips are down and he's the only one throwing himself into the tackles, he gets the crowd behind him. Not that maybe that's relevant in the short term, obviously, with what's going on, but getting the crowd on side is something that we've not seen from an Arsenal player. You know, just getting stuck in. I'm talking about Winterburn, Lee Dixon, two-footed challenges. We haven't seen that, certainly recently, and Guendouzi brings it.
You've been at the Emirates last season, Adam. Going to be a bit different without the fans, but I don't know how much has Arteta's arrival started to heal that, because I don't want to get too carried away over this result, because there's really, if we're being honest, there's not really any positive from that. We're going to have to draw a line on it and we're going to have to move on. But let's look at the bigger picture. Did you start to see improvement, not just on the football pitch, but at the football club? Because I haven't been to a match in ages. I'm out here in Asia. That there was a bit of healing going on. I saw a bit of structure, the way Arteta lays the team out, what he's trying to implement at the football club, and everything you hear is that he gets it. He gets Arsenal Football Club. So among the fans, when you were there, did you start to sense that a little bit, a bit of healing?
Oh, totally. I think through the back end of the Emery era, I don't think I went to a game where I didn't hear an argument between fans, or even where stewards had to get called in. People are angry and frustrated, and they have nowhere to place it, because, in my opinion, they know the players aren't good enough, and you can't keep shouting at the players that they're not good enough, because that's not going to make them better. You've got an idiot as a manager, and he doesn't even understand you when you shout at him. So you're just kind of, everyone frustrated and shouting at each other. Then you have Arteta come in, and he's eloquent, and he has an idea, and he has, and he knows like little structures, and he watches the failings of someone like Xhaka, and then moves him about to left back, or moving Saka forward. It's all these little things, being able to play to players' strengths instead of being rigid to a system. I think what I saw early in the first 20 minutes is when we were playing it out from the back, it was playing it out from the back with purpose. In the Athletic article that came out today, that the players were talking about that when you're playing it out from the back, you do not make a pass unless you're committing one or two men. That was very obvious, the way that Leno was waiting and drawing pressure in before playing it forward. These are just simple things instead of an ideology. It's more like do the basics right, and they're, as collective, you can do it. And I think as fans, we can see that. And we're not shouting at a player for being shit, because hopefully the collective, like Sean Dyche does at Burnley, the collective can somehow overcome each player's shortcomings. I'd like to hope.
So I think the sum of all parts is greater than the individual. I think the communist phrase, Adam. But just one thought on that. I'm just thinking about the Emery times, and you said that there was a lot of arguments with stewards. And I'm just thinking about your season ticket. Are you sure you gave that away, or were those steward arguments the catalyst for maybe them revoking your season ticket, Adam?
No, Theo Walcott was long gone, so he was the only one who ever got my abuse.
Theo Walcott.
I'd love to have Theo back in this team.
Bit of directness.
Yeah.
I touched on it earlier, but and again, it's been ages since we played, but what has concerned me about this Arsenal team pre-Arteta and even under Arteta is the lack of cohesiveness in the final third. At the very least from Arsenal, even if you're neutral, I think, you expect us to play good football going forward and score some nice goals. There's been flashes, but I think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of our identity. And I think that's what he's working on very hard at the moment. He's definitely putting the hours in on the training pitch. Maybe we need to learn to walk before we can run in that respect. It is a fractured football club, both on and off the field. He's got to keep tweaking those small things, moving players who are liabilities around or out of the team altogether, if their name's David Luiz. But that's one thing I miss, I think, and one thing I hope does return soon is us just playing some nice football in the final third, playing the Arsenal way, if you like, and scoring some good goals. Brighton might be too soon for that.
But it's a bit hard to be cohesive in the final third when you look at our front three today, and two of them are playing out of position. You got Aubameyang on the left wing-ish, and you got Saka, who's a left-footed player, out on the right. Sure, Nketiah is in his favoured position, but he doesn't play that position much in our team. And the amount of rotation as well, if you look back to the Invincibles, everybody knew their place and everybody knew where everybody would be. There's just that lack of understanding.
Again, it's a long time ago now, isn't it? The Invincibles.
We wouldn't. I mean, none of us. I reckon if we all said right now, write down what you think his first 11 should be, none of us will have the same answer, and that would definitely wasn't the case with Arsene Wenger's '98 team or his 2005 team, or it just we'd know. And what that means is there are no automatisms, is what Pierre Mertesacker calls them, where you know where your teammate is going to be. And you know what they're going to do, and when you're running onto runs where you score beautiful goals like Jack Wilshere's and things like a goal against Norwich, like that doesn't happen because no one's linking up. But all of the stuff that we say about Aubameyang and Lacazette being great mates, how many they don't even assist for each other that much. They just seem to they seem to be potent and score on the same day, but in terms of being real teammates, not so much.
Mm.
What's the biggest issue for you, tangible issue, that has to be sorted out? What frustrates me most, I think, is the Ozil issue at the moment, and he didn't even play today. He's 350 grand a week and he's not even playing. You talk about how great De Bruyne is for City. Ozil's supposed to be a player of that stature for Arsenal. And arguably, some would say he's got even more ability than De Bruyne, if, at one time in his career, when he's at Real Madrid or when he first joined Arsenal. The fact that he's not playing and the fact that you don't know whether or not he's going to be in the squad is huge, because you don't get many players like that are supposed to have that much influence on the side. And he's having the negative influence of not being involved. And how does that look to a young player when Mesut Ozil, one of the leaders of the team, a Galactico, isn't even showing up for away games? That has to be sorted, and I don't know if it can be given his wages. We're not going to be able to ship him out. We've got the rest of the season to play. Will he even feature? Will he have an impact? Probably not. That, for me, is just a massive sign of how many issues there are at the football club. That for me, is the top of the pyramid in terms of off-field problems affecting the on-field problems.
He hasn't even taken a wage cut.
Right.
He's bigger than the club. He's bigger than the club.
Andy, I think Ozil represents exactly what you're saying. The problems that we've had with the off the field, right? Inflated wages for luxury players. Luxury. He's a luxury. And we can't afford a luxury. letting our best players run down their contracts, doing rubbish work in the transfer market. So this is off-field stuff. On the field, if you ask me what our biggest or most pressing matter is, it's still that lack of spine. Yeah, one syllable, spine. And again, I feel like a broken record or a discman that keeps skipping. But we just don't. We haven't had a strong spine. We can't rely on our centre backs to feed our defensive midfielder for our attacking players to have that freedom which they need. That is our most pressing issue.
Well, with that, boys, I'm actually going to bring it to a close on that cheery note. It's been that kind of night, and it's also 6 in the morning, so we're going to get this out there. If you're watching, get in touch. If you're an Arsenal fan with an opinion, might like to have you on as well. Adam, Keir, Edward, thank you, boys. The only way is up from here, surely. Bring on Brighton.
Let's hope. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Nice one.
Up the Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal.